If I loved you less, I might be able to talk about it more. What is right to be done cannot be done too soon. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. I do not want people to be very agreeable, as it saves me the trouble of liking them a great deal. If things are going untowardly 1 month, they are sure to mend the next. To be fond of dancing was a certain step towards falling in love. The more I know of the world, the more I am convinced that I shall never see a man whom I can really love. Nobody minds having what is too good for them. Is not general incivility the very essence of love? Friendship is certainly the finest balm for the pangs of disappointed love. Nothing is more deceitful than the appearance of humility. It is often only carelessness of opinion, and sometimes an indirect boast. We have all a better guide in ourselves, if we would attend to it, than any other person can be. Think only of the past as its remembrance gives you pleasure. There are people, who the more you do for them, the less they will do for themselves. Those who do not complain are never pitied. A woman, especially if she have the misfortune of knowing anything, should conceal it as well as she can. It is always incomprehensible to a man that a woman should ever refuse an offer of marriage. The person, be it gentleman or lady, who has not pleasure in a good novel, must be intolerably stupid. To sit in the shade on a fine day and look upon verdure is the most perfect refreshment. Selfishness must always be forgiven, you know, because there is no hope of a cure. My idea of good company is the company of clever, well-informed people who have a great deal of conversation. That is what I call good company. Life seems but a quick succession of busy nothings. There is nothing like staying at home for real comfort. There is no charm equal to tenderness of heart. Vanity working on a weak head produces every sort of mischief. In 9 cases out of 10, a woman had better show more affection than she feels. The power of doing anything with quickness is always prized much by the possessor, and often without any attention to the imperfection of the performance. There are certainly not so many men of large fortune in the world, as there are pretty women to deserve them. One man's style must not be the rule of another's. Single women have a dreadful propensity for being poor, which is one very strong argument in favor of matrimony. Give a girl an education and introduce her properly into the world, and 10 to 1 but she has the means of settling well without further expense to anybody. For what do we live, but to make sport for our neighbors and laugh at them in our turn? Good-humored, unaffected girls will not do for a man who has been used to sensible women. They are 2 distinct orders of being. Surprises are foolish things. The pleasure is not enhanced and the inconvenience is often considerable. Every man is surrounded by a neighborhood of voluntary spies. General benevolence, but not general friendship, made a man what he ought to be. Dress is at all times a frivolous distinction, and excessive solicitude about it often destroys its own aim. 1/2 of the world cannot understand the pleasures of the other. A lady's imagination is very rapid, it jumps from admiration to love, from love to matrimony in a moment. One man's ways may be as good as another's, but we all like our own best. We do not look in our great cities for our best morality. From politics it was an easy step to silence. A mind lively and at ease can do with seeing nothing, and can see nothing that does not answer. Oh, do not attack me with your watch. A watch is always too fast or too slow. I cannot be dictated to by a watch. Nothing ever fatigues me but doing what I do not like. How quick come the reasons for approving what we like. A large income is the best recipe for happiness I ever heard of. My sore throats are always worse than anyone's. It will, I believe, be everywhere found that as the clergy are, or are not what they ought to be, so are the rest of the nation. I am afraid that the pleasantness of an employment does not always evince its propriety. It is very difficult for the prosperous to be humble. Business, you know, may bring you money, but friendship hardly ever does. A person who can write a long letter with ease cannot write ill. Respect for right conduct is felt by everybody. I cannot speak well enough to be unintelligible. An artist cannot do anything slovenly. There is safety in reserve, but no attraction. One cannot love a reserved person. Where an opinion is general, it is usually correct. I could not sit down to write a serious romance under any other motive than to save my life. Let other pens dwell on guilt and misery. There is something so amiable in the prejudices of a young mind that one is sorry to see them give way to the reception of more general opinions. Seldom, very seldom does complete truth belong to any human disclosure. Seldom can it happen that something is not a little disguised or a little mistaken. Nobody who has not been in the interior of a family can say what the difficulties of any individual of that family may be. No man is offended by another man's admiration of the woman he loves. It is the woman only who can make it a torment. To flatter and follow others, without being flattered and followed in turn, is but a state of half enjoyment. Where youth and diffidence are united, it requires uncommon steadiness of reason to resist the attraction of being called the most charming girl in the world. Happiness in marriage is entirely a matter of chance. A man would always wish to give a woman a better home than the one he takes her from, and he who can do it, where there is no doubt of her regard, must, I think, be the happiest of mortals. Husbands and wives generally understand when opposition will be vain. There is not 1 in 100 of either sex who is not taken in when they marry. I have been a selfish being all my life, in practice, though not in principle.